Here in the United States of America, me and my countrymen absolutely love flying. We fly planes over the top of our most important societal rituals to bless the proceedings. Our most talented artists signal their ascension to the top of the cultural mountaintop by taking to the skies. And of course, our national symbol combines flying with our other favorite pastime, being white. The bald eagle. But over the last few months, my country's long-standing relationship with flying has descended rapidly, with horrible tragedies, repeated communication failures, and various other terrifying things dominating the headlines and our social media feeds. So is American aviation going down in flames? Or will we once again take to the skies like soaring bald eagles, pop megastars, and glorious warplanes, buzzing low over a bunch of jacked up big boys in tights about to concuss themselves in front of an audience of rabid Budweiser Vikings? It's been rough times in American skies lately, and if you haven't heard about it, I will now reenact exactly what it feels like my social media feed has turned into. We had the worst commercial air accident since 2009, killing 67 people. 2 days later, the Federal Aviation Administration, or FAA's, nationwide safety notification system went out, causing delays and cancellations. Then the Trump administration started firing FAA employees, including air traffic controllers, before being like, never mind, we will keep the air traffic controllers. Planes caught fire on the runways at Orlando and Denver. A plane bound for Edmonton got a bunny wabbit sucked into its engine, causing it to emit, quote, giant fireballs. A plane aborted its landing after a close call at Chicago's Midway Airport. A DoorDash driver accidentally drove into restricted areas at Chicago's O'Hare Airport. A flight from San Diego got evacuated after a passenger said the person next to him had a bomb. This plane coming from Minnesota got to Toronto and then flipped over. There was a full radio communications blackout at Denver's air traffic control tower. There were multiple similar blackouts at Newark's air traffic control tower, which currently employs only 22 of the 38 controllers that the FAA says it should have working, leading 5 Newark controllers to take trauma leave and 1 Newark controller to do a steamy photo shoot and interview with the Wall Street Journal, where he said he doesn't want to be responsible for killing 400 people. And all of this is happening in the midst of a nationwide shortage of air traffic controllers. Only 2 of our 313 air traffic control towers have met the staffing targets set by the FAA. This means 98% of our air traffic control towers are currently understaffed. So basically, 100% of our air traffic control towers are currently understaffed. Now that's all pretty daunting stuff. A systemic crisis in our country's aviation system with profound ramifications not only for American business, but also the safety of American citizens. In fact, the issue was so daunting that I decided to grant the wish of a young transportation enthusiast who's a huge fan of the show and finally let him call in. First off, congratulations on the beard. How long is that? How long you've been working on that for?
This is about 2 months worth now, month and a half maybe.
That's great. I'm going on 14 years here, so it's good to know that.
Keep working on it. This could be your year.
Clearly, he was in the palm of my hand, but it was time to stop beating around the Buttigieg face bush and get back to business. Are things more bad than they used to be in terms of aviation safety, or do we just now have more coverage of these issues, which makes it seem that way?
So from what I've seen so far, a lot of this is that we're just paying more attention to it. America went years without a fatal airliner crash like the tragedy that happened in Washington earlier this year. It remains the case that flying is dramatically safer than pretty much any other way we know of getting around. That being said, I mean, these issues are real and serious. I mean, you should not have that level of understaffing that we see right now in places like the tower that serves Newark, and we should not see the kind of technology glitches that have happened at Newark, Denver, and a lot of other places.
Thanks, Peter. One thing you may not know about me is that I'm an enormous fan of spam emails. Every morning I put on a pot of coffee, I crack open my email, and I just can't wait to start reading my spam. There's just something comforting knowing that no matter how many spam emails I read, there will always be more waiting for me. So you can imagine my disgust when I recently learned about something called Incognate, a data privacy service that makes it absurdly easy to eliminate spam emails from your life What is this bullshit? Apparently the reason why I get so many incredible spam emails is because data brokers are constantly selling my contact information to businesses and marketing agencies, who then put me on their email lists, even though I didn't sign up for it. So what the evil people at Incogni do is reach out directly to data brokers on your behalf, and they make the data brokers remove your personal information. You don't even have to ask Incogni to do it. Incogni does it automatically. Then the data brokers can't sell your information to the talented artists who want to send you spam for free. Those bastards. What's more is that if you have an annual subscription to this Incogni will keep your data off the market forever by doing repeated removals, constantly making sure your personal information is out of the hands of data brokers. Plus, with Incogni's unlimited plan, you get access to their custom removals feature. This lets you share links to websites that have your information directly with Incogni, and Incogni will take care of it. All this adds up to an inbox remarkably free of spam. And if that's a world you want to live in, be my guest. All you have to do is use the code GOODWORK at incogni.com/goodwork, and they'll give you 60% off an annual plan. But if you, like me, want to go hog wild for the beautiful literature that is spam emails, then I recommend you disregard this advertisement, and certainly whatever you do, do not use the code GOODWORK at incogni.com/goodwork, and they'll give you 60% off an annual plan. My name is Dan Toomey, and I choose spam. And all of the other aviation geeks that I spoke to for this investigation said variations of the same thing. That the recent slew of scary stories is less a reflection of a dangerous system and is actually an illustration of how safe things have been in the 21st century. We've had so few incidents that anytime anything happens, it creates a massive, hypersensitive media cycle that does a horrible job of contextualizing information. Kind of like how I did about a minute ago. Here's Lori Aratani, a longtime transportation reporter for the Washington Post.
There is a group of veteran aviation reporters that did a lot of their work in the 70s and the 80s when they talked about covering air crashes, every other month. There are a few of them still around, and they kind of chuckle that everyone gets all stirred up when there are these incidents because they're like, oh, back in the day, this was happening all the time.
It's statements like that make me happy that I am not alive back in the day.
That's not to minimize the fear, because I know that there are a lot of people out there who are very nervous about flying. I mean, this terrible accident, this terrible collision that we had near National Airport here in Washington, D.C., right? It's scary and it's terrible and it's sad. But that was the first fatal passenger crash we've had in, I think, since 2009. When the Colgan Air crash happened. So it really is a safe farm.
And here's Captain Steeeve, an active pilot and a rising internet star, making videos educating the public about flying.
And it's Steeeve. It's multiple E's, right? Am I getting that right?
There's 3 E's in that Steeeve. Captain Steeeve.
It's important to get these things right, people. It's just what a professional like me does.
The last few months have been kind of unprecedented in terms of visibility and aviation accidents, incidents, mishaps. Part of it is, I think the aviation industry has become a victim of their own success. In the last 10 to 12 years, you've heard virtually nothing. So when the DCA crash happened, that was very tragic and awful and caught all of us off guard. And then it brings it into the public attention again, right? You're seeing the normal day-to-day stuff, an airplane that pushes back off a gate and something happens and people have to evacuate, or an airplane that skids off the runway someplace, or a small single-engine airplane that the pilot loses control and it crashes. Those things have been happening. They just didn't make the national news, and it was all started with that one event back in DCA.
And last up on the runway is Dan Bubb, an aviation historian, former pilot, and current professor at UNLV.
One of the questions I'm frequently asked, but at the end of media interviews is, would you put your family on a plane? I say, yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't give it a second thought. What I really would like to emphasize to everybody, air travel is very safe. You should feel confident getting on a plane. At the end of the day, we're safely going to get you to where you're going.
All right, Bub. But that being said, there are real problems lurking in this system that are becoming more clear the longer they go unaddressed. And these mostly boil down to the two things that Pete mentioned earlier: technology and understaffing. And while these problems don't mean that everybody should stop flying out of safety concerns, they do point to a potential slow erosion of our aviation system into one that's full of delays, cancellations, and dysfunction.
We are facing a massive shortage of air traffic controllers. It's been going on for decades, and we're about 3,000 controllers short of the number they need to consider the system fully staffed. People do a lot of overtime, right? So what might normally be, a 5-day-a-week job for 8 hours becomes a 6-day-a-week job for 10 or 12 hours, right? There are strains in the system, and the controller shortage is real.
The number of air traffic controllers working in the United States has been on decline for years. Under Pete's tenure, that decline stopped a little bit, but we are still way below the staffing levels that we need. The current Secretary of Transportation, Sean Duffy, has picked up where Pete left off, launching new incentives to try to get more trainees into the air traffic controller pipeline. Still, my sources told me that they are optimistic about the plans to get more air traffic controllers trained, though they also pointed out the high washout rate at air traffic controller school due to how rigorous the program is.
I think we're about 3,000 air traffic controllers short, but they're going to fill that pretty soon because I think they've got 7,500 who are going through testing right now. There's about a 20 to 30% washout rate in air traffic control school, but if these folks can go through and they pass their tests and we can train them, then we can start filling some of these places.
But even if we're able to fill all those air traffic control towers with the smartest, hottest people, then it does...
Why do they have to be hot?
Sorry?
Why do the air traffic controllers have to be hot?
Well, I personally feel safer just knowing that, we got some 10s up there. But even if we're able to fill all those air traffic control towers with the smartest people around, there's still the problem about the technology they're using that predates the Dust Bowl. And for those of you who don't know, the Dust Bowl is that time in the 1930s where photographers took all those photos of those poor, sad people.
The modernization of the air traffic control system, we're still talking on radios to communicate back and forth. Now, back in the 1930s, that was the state-of-the-art technology, was wireless radios to talk back and forth. So now you've got, 100 times more airplanes flying in the same airspace that you did 50 or 60 years ago. And everybody still has to press a microphone, key up a mic, say what they're going to say. Then they have to get a response from air traffic control. It's very slow and archaic. And then you add to that 2 or 3 pilots that might key the mic at the same time. They block each other. Then the air traffic controller says, sorry, didn't hear you, say again. Then they do it again. It's an out-of-date system. There are much better systems. You and I are used to picking up a device and doing like this with it and texting one another. That same technology, data link, exists for aviation, and it's used in most other places around the globe. In the U.S., there are little spots, little places where they're experimenting with it, but it should have come online 15 years ago, where I can get in the same instruction I would get over the radio that I have to respond to with a radio call. I can get that texted to me on the airplane. If I like it, I simply hit an accept button, and that tells the air traffic controller I'm going to comply, and then I comply with it, and no talking is required. So it's much more efficient, much more technologically advanced for sure, but it's safer in the long run.
This technology has been showing its age for a long time. Several things have made it hard to change. One is that there is a 0.000 level of tolerance for failure during any kind of transition. The system has to work 24/7 by 365. So it's not something you can it's not like a website you can take down for 12 hours overnight while you're trying to redo it. And the truth is, any kind of big capital project, especially a big capital IT project, which even for a corporation is one of the hardest things you can try to do, is that much harder when your board of directors consists of the United States Congress.
That's right. All annoying and frustrating things in our society lead back to one place. I'm sorry, I spaced out. What was I saying?
If I can amplify a point, the real holdup to this has been the Congress.
Congress! That's where all the annoying and frustrating things in our society lead back to. As you were, Monsieur Bubb.
It's been a source of frustration for the FAA, and understandably so, because the FAA had been working on this new program called Next Generation. They call it Next Gen for short. Invested hundreds of millions of dollars into it, beta testing it, ready to install it, and it's just been an incredibly slow process because of politics, because Congress is allocating funds for other initiatives, not allocating enough for this. And as I've told other, journalists who've interviewed me, it's time to stop playing politics with this, finish the project, and get it in place so that things can function more smoothly.
Now, in addition to his air traffic controller incentive, Sean Duffy has also recently asked Congress to sign off on a comprehensive plan to modernize huge pieces of the aviation system, including air traffic control. The plan builds off of proposals that previous administrations and the FAA have been trying to get passed for years. And the CEOs of all the major U.S. airlines support Duffy's plan to fund replacements for wildly out-of-date technologies, writing in an open letter that the current system is failing Americans. Duff hasn't specified how much money he'll need exactly, but he has said that he needs the money up front, and it's gonna be a lot, which is fucking baller. So baller, in fact, that I suspected this guy can't have the background of a normal politician. That's right, Dan Toomey knows a former cast member of MTV's The Real World Boston when he sees one.
He is a TV guy, right? He was on Real World and he worked on Fox News, so he's very good and he's very smooth about delivering the administration's messages. He does understand the mission. He does understand the importance of ensuring people that it's safe to fly, investing in infrastructure, right? One of the things that has always happened is, traditionally Democrats have wanted to spend on infrastructure and things like that, and Republicans are like, no. And so it's sort of a weird thing where we've got a Republican administration pushing for this.
What are your thoughts on what the transportation secretary is proposing to help modernize the system?
I think it's good. The only thing I want to make sure of is that they implement it fully and they tested it thoroughly so we don't have any kind of wrinkles. But I think it's great. It's long overdue. I don't think it's helpful to blame any administration at this point. I would just rather see you focus and move forward. Get Congress on board, fully fund this thing, get it implemented, make sure it's thoroughly done, everybody's properly trained on it, and then let's go.
Now, we went to Congress actually about a year ago now, asking for funding for the fiscal 25 budget to change the way that these tech upgrades are capitalized. They still haven't passed a budget from when we gave it to them last year. So you have these kinds of headwinds. But let me say this, like the tech proposal that they've put forward, I mean, it's pretty broad and it's a little hard to tell some of the details, but a lot of what I saw, I really like what's in there. In fact, a lot of that is stuff we were doing too. And if he can actually go faster, which is what they're claiming that they will do, I will be the first to be cheering them on because, not just as a transportation guy, but just as a member of the traveling public. Like, we should all be rooting for the Secretary of Transportation to succeed, whoever he or she is, and whatever party they belong to.
Now, folks, with all this info blasting we've done so far, I hope you'll give me a chance to wax my poetic. I don't know if you've noticed, but we live in an age where everybody absolutely fucking hates each other. Everybody's always saying that we're all gonna finally come together on something, and let me tell you, it sounds great, but they're always lying. Maybe, though, when it comes to our aviation system, we've actually found something that we can work together on. I am almost positive that everybody likes not dying on planes and not getting their flights constantly canceled or delayed. And when it comes to giving the FAA the funding they need to fix this shit, listen, I know that the golden rule in business is that when an alumnus of the Real World Boston asks you to write a blank check, you do not write that blank check. Jason Cornwell, you son of a bitch, I should have known that your trampoline park was gonna fail. But in this case, Congress, I think I speak for all of us when I say the perfectly rational sentence, please give MTV's Sean Duffy all the money he's asking for to save lives and to save our skies. For good work, I'm Dan Toomey.
Do all pilots have this natural manner of speaking that's very soft and calming, and you sound like a pilot?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've observed that as well.
Can you hit me with like an example announcement you would make as a pilot, just so I can get a hit of it?
Absolutely. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Air Vegas Flight 334 with nonstop service to Grand Canyon. Captain Gary is on board with First Officer Dan, myself. Flight time today is going to be about 48 minutes. We'll be cruising at 15,000 feet.
Welcome aboard, my airline flight 123 to London today. I'm Captain Steeeve, and we've got a great flight ahead for you. I'll introduce the flight attendants. I'll say they're the best in the business. They were personally handpicked by me for this flight due to their fabulosity, which is not a word, but I made it up. I think people get a little giggle out of that.
Current weather conditions of the Grand Canyon, a little chilly, 42 degrees with winds out of the west at about 10 miles an hour. We're anticipating a smooth flight, but if there's anything we can do to make it more comfortable and enjoyable for you, please don't hesitate to let us know, and welcome aboard.
No notes on my end. Dan, that was fantastic.
You've got 4 things to look forward to on today's flight. Number 1 is a Michelin star meal, or 2, depending on which cabin you're in. You'll get to watch a movie or 2 that you probably wouldn't have paid to go see at the theater. But what the heck, it's no extra charge. Why not? You're going to get a little bit of awkward rest along the way, and you might even make a new friend or 2. So all in all, not too bad.
Steve, I'm ready to cross the pond with you.
Yeah, let's do it.